Wait for it. Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans, a Stabby chaos coordinator, and one chief shenanigator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guests introduce themselves to our listeners and viewers at home, starting with Miss Jenna S. Brown, who sometimes cosplays as Jenna Ray.
You know, it always confuses me when I get to go first because I'm not used to it. I'm usually like the end of the round robin, and so you catch me by surprise every time. But that's okay. I'm Jenna S. Brown. I write science fiction, fantasy, and other fantastical things under the pen name Jenna Ray, and I am the chief shenanigator around here, which is, you know, kind of a combination of den mother and cat herder. I have a large umbrella, and I just kind of push them around with that. It works part of the time.
Okay, but what kind of cat?
Yes. I walked in from doing some errands today, and here's my cat, and I own 2 Bengal cats, and they are large cats. And here is one of my Bengal cats, and he is stretched across the kitchen table with his head on a dish towel, completely and utterly asleep. He knows he's not supposed to be on there, and I come in and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He just looks up at me and says, whatever. So I had to turn him into a flying kitty, and he got tossed into the other room gently, but tossed.
All right, next we have Mr. John M. Olson.
Hi there. I write science fiction primarily, but I also have written fantasy. So, yeah, I've heard you're supposed to focus on one thing, and I don't listen so well. So I like to do a lot of different genres, especially with short stories. But I also am an editor, and Jana is actually my editor. So it all kind of works out. There are lots of people that know each other in the writing community, and it is a lot of fun.
Yes, this is the crazy thing, people. Counselors see counselors, and editors have their own editors. Just one of those strange things about life. All right, next we have Miss Melissa McShane, the War Mistress herself of War Hamster and War Master fame.
Hi, I'm Melissa McShane, and I write many different subgenres of fantasy, including historical fantasy, urban fantasy, and lit RPG, which is the War Master series. And I am excited to be here.
And for those listening, if you liked the War Hamster Anthology, there is an open call for the Necro Hamster Anthology closing on 10 October 2026. So you wanted to try your hand and have some fun, although Jenna tells me I have to clean my potty mouth up for this one.
You do.
She made me edit out a whole bunch of bleeped words. It was a thing. So now we warn people in advance so we don't have to edit out the bleeped word. I scared her off. See, she was just thinking about all these bad words.
And, and it just made her explode. Made her pop.
It's just too much.
Yeah, maybe one of the cats a bit of cable.
Yeah. That's probably it. All right. Last but certainly not least, we've got the many voices of Miss Terry K. Job, who also is a scribbler herself of the words. Only the best words, though.
Oh, of course, darling. Terry K. Job, as JR said, a person of many voices, large and small, and also a writer who has dabbled in a few different genres: sci-fi, fantasy, urban fantasy, historical fiction, oddly enough. It's fun.
The historical stuff is interesting because the stuff that people like get really persnickety about detail-wise, you just never know what is going to be important to people. And heaven forbid you get that one detail. It could be the only detail you get wrong, but the history people will be like, no, actually, there were 12 buttons on that shirt, not 11.
And don't say anything wrong about horses, or the horse people will come and get you.
Oh, yeah.
This is the thing. I'm told horse people, gun people, and cyclists and vegans are the 4 people you don't ever want to irk with the details. I don't know what particular order that comes in. It might even be just like, yes, all together in one blob.
Oh, that'd be terrible. If you got somebody
I'm
who's
sure
all
that
in one.
list continues. So
Yeah.
Luckily, I have people who know people. So like, phone a friend.
Yeah.
In the military, that superpower is called I know a guy. But all right. So with that out of the way, we are going to do the religion question. Are you ladies and gentlemen? I'm assuming you're a gentleman, John. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Close
Yes.
All right. So what one magical item would you want, Jana?
I was having this discussion with my husband yesterday about, practical things that I would want if magical items were actually a thing. And we came to a conclusion that it would be really, really cool to have a magical cast iron pan that always gives you that really nice level of crispy caramelization without ever crossing over into burnt. Because that would just there's so many recipes we make where there's a thin line between crispy caramely goodness and char, and so we would want a cast iron pan that always cooked just to that perfect level of done.
Okay. Yep. We'll allow it. Would that take the fun out of cooking for you?
No, because you're still able to put everything together. You're still able to adjust it. It just means that you always get the very, very best crumbly, crunchy parts without having to worry about whether or not it's burnt.
All right. My gut says, bag of holding because it's an easy way to transport everything. And having spent years of my life carrying like twice my body weight in equipment when I was in the light infantry, they lied. There was nothing light about the light infantry. But it feels like it's almost like a cheat. So maybe like the teleportation ring, something like Stargate, but magical instead of science-based. That could be kind of cool. Although universal translator could be cool. I don't know. Maybe we'll call it Babelfish or something.
Mm-hmm.
Or, but anyway, all right, we're going to go round robin for this one. So Terry, you are next. What one magical item would you want?
I've been thinking about it, and I think I actually would want something to teleport. I was just debating in my head whether it'd be better to have short distance or long distance. I think something that could, like, as long as they're on the same continent, I'd be happy with that.
Yeah, it would be really bad if you looked up at the moon and decided poof.
Yeah, that could be a problem. Like, you want to make sure there's a specific activation thing and not just a mental, oh, that'd be cool. Oh, no.
All right, what about you, John?
Well, I'm sure my friends will agree with this, but I think it would be really awesome to have a wood shop that was incapable of cutting, mashing, or mangling me.
Mm-hmm. I would vote for that.
Yes,
Yeah.
I agree.
There are
For John.
stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my wife always tells me, do not go out into the shop because it is a holiday. Yeah, holidays and wood shop, there's a thing there.
Mm-hmm.
Is there some sort of correlation about increased accidents or something?
There is for
John
John.
spent a lot of holidays at the hospital.
Oh, it's just a John thing, not a statistical
Yeah.
thing.
No, it's specifically a John thing.
Yeah, it's specific to me. Holidays and dangerous power tools don't mix well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
Okay. All right. What about you, Melissa?
Having lived for 3.5 years in a country where they speak a language different from mine, I would like something that would translate instantly. We're getting ready to head back permanently from India, and I never did learn Malayalam, and that's like my number one regret is that we didn't push for that. So I would like to be able to have like a magic item that maybe you could slot a stone into, and you had 10 slots, and each slot was a language, and so you could have up to 10 languages translated. But if you wanted more than that, you'd have to choose what to swap out. So it wouldn't be, super powerful, since we're talking about the cost of magic and limitations today. But it would be very useful, and so that's the magic item I would go for.
Okay, I thought of something mostly because there's one of the stories I read, short story. They had a bag set in the desert, so the water skin never went empty. So like a decanter of endless insert beverages, you could always have, you'd never run out of coffee or Coke or alcohol. Although an endless alcohol bottle might be a deadly thing for soldiers. So maybe that one should be kept under lock and key or adult supervision. But
Yeah.
Well,
That
endless Everclear would have all sorts of other interesting
Ooh.
uses too.
Uh-huh.
Ooh. Yeah.
Very true.
My misspent youth would have been a lot more misspent if that
Yeah.
was.
I mean, just think, Jana could make vanilla anytime she wanted.
Actually, I just found one of my bottles of vanilla that I didn't realize when we brew the vanilla, we put it downstairs in the nice dark basement and we took it clear up where the cats won't knock it over. And I found some that's been down there for probably a year and a half and popped it open and oh, it smells so good. So the baking for the next several months will be very good.
And vanilla will eventually go bad. It'll expire eventually. But having seen how expensive pure vanilla extract can be, like an endless bottle of that would like save Jana billions of dollars in her lifetime.
It's true. I've never had a bottle go bad because it never lasts that long.
Yeah.
Interesting. I have not had a bottle go bad because I don't buy enough of it. I don't bake very well. I had burnt bread in the one attempt to make sourdough because it was COVID times and I was bored. Even the dogs wouldn't eat it. My neighbors looked at me and were like, yeah, nope, not having it.
No.
When even the ducks don't want your bread, you done messed up.
Yeah.
So, all right, we are civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. We are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. So, coffee or tea, and how would you take it? In what specific magical place would you want to drink your beverage at? Jana, what are you drinking and where?
Well, I'm still drinking Diet Dr. Pepper with coconut and limes in it because that is the most delicious way, especially right now. We were talking pre-show, and where I live is under a water boil order because somebody screwed up and connected the secondary water to their primary water, which then contaminated the whole system with lake water, which is bad. So I'm drinking, lots of Diet Dr. Pepper because the water isn't safe. And where would I drink it? See, I was thinking about that and trying to decide, magical places that I would want to drink things. I actually didn't come up with a really, really good one. I might have to go to Middle Earth. I might go to Middle Earth and drink Diet Dr. Pepper. Go to the pub in the Shire. I can drink there because they have taters.
Yeah, that's important. Okay, Middle Earth. All right, what about you, Terry?
Ooh, well, it's going to be hot chocolate. Where though? I can't get just this place that is a bookshop or a library where the books just kind of float around depending on where they need to go. So you can just sit and watch the books fly by. Occasionally pluck one out of the air, read it, sipping on your drink. That sounds lovely to me. Nice plush chairs. Ooh.
Okay.
Did Melissa just make a face with the idea of hot chocolate being around the books?
I did indeed. One does not drink hot chocolate or any other kind of sugary beverage where the books live. That is just not done.
My internship.
I mean, if they're floating in the air, then you're probably just as safe, not going to spill on anything. But having had incidents with Coca-Cola and books and spillage, yeah, that's because the.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. That's it.
Oh, I was going to say, of course, with the magical bookshop, the pages would be, what's the term for it? Aquaphobic?
Yeah.
Any liquid would just
be
repelled.
It would have to be. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, John?
Well, it was just my birthday a couple of days ago, and my mother-in-law came by with a package. She always gives me some peeps. And so cocoa with a peep in it. Here's one nice squishy peep. But, there's another way of eating them too, like this guy right here.
Yeah, the crunchy.
They snap. And so cocoa with a peep in it is living dangerously for me. And the place to drink it. Now, I was also thinking of Middle Earth, but since I am a homebody and don't like going out, I was thinking maybe in Smog's lair minus Smog.
Mm-hmm.
Just had the whole place to myself.
So, yeah, minus Smog, it makes it safer. The place that the one place in Middle Earth that I remember wasn't it like the Green Dragon Inn was the name of the place?
Mhm.
Yep.
So if you're going to go to Middle Earth, that would be the place, I would imagine.
Mhm.
Yep. There in the Shire.
So, all right, what about you, Melissa?
Okay, so I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan, but I would love to go to Hogwarts and drink my Coca-Cola in the great banqueting hall. And I mean, speaking of seeing things floating through the air and the candles, and it just seems like it's like a celebration of food there.
Mhm.
It's just I love the idea, so that's where I would want to go. Mhm.
All right, so the banquet hall in Harry Potter verse.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, I can accept that. Let's see, I'm trying to think. My gut says I would really like to drink, a nice latte, vanilla latte, soothing in the Library of Alexandria because it's not there anymore. So maybe I could make that a fantasy thing, but it's just a real place that doesn't exist anymore. So I don't know if that's cheating. I don't know.
I think if it existed now, it would be fantasy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
'Cause-
Maybe.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to think. Maybe the one of the many ruins in Elder Scrolls. They've got dotting the countryside. They're just kind of the forgotten elven villages that are just castle ruins, but elven and fairy like. That'd be kind of cool. Just picnic in a abandoned castle. Although the abandoned castles tend to come with draugrs that come to try to kill you, so maybe without those too. Because I don't know if my swordcraft is up to par right now.
Picky.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I specified minus smog.
Yeah. With all the plot armor known to man and God,
Yeah.
maybe.
Mhm.
Or maybe smog just can't see you. There you go.
Well, you can still
Didn't
shoot
see that
fire
all.
at random, though, and that would be unpleasant.
Mhm.
Hold
Yeah,
on.
that's
Here,
kind of
warm this up.
It's kind
Yeah,
of a movement may concern attack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we need a lot of plot armor for that.
Uh-huh.
And since this is the part 2 of the discussion we've already had, I thought it was fitting that we had the same sponsor. So we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly shill for the woman. Boom!
What lurks beneath the waves? Krakens, sea serpents, megalodons, spirits of storm and tide. In tentacles and tide, the ocean is anything but empty. Sailors glimpse impossible shapes below their hulls. Coastal towns bargain with ancient powers. Great whales guard secrets humanity was never meant to find. And sometimes, the monster is the one telling the story. These speculative tales explore the creatures of the deep as heroes, villains, and guardians, and forces of nature where survival, awe, and terror swim side by side. The sea is vast, the sea is powerful, and something beneath the surface is always watching.
All right, thank you for sticking with us to that commercial interlude. And because this is a panel discussion, I thought we'd define our terms, and we agreed with this last time. So I'm just going to reiterate what we decided. Magic is defined as the use of ritual spells or techniques believed to influence natural or supernatural forces, or the art of performing illusions for entertainment is just a generic definition of magic. We're all good with that. We can rock on?
Yes.
Aye, aye.
Alrighty then. So we kind of did the basics, like that magic shouldn't be free because then there's no gravitas to when you use it. If it's just overpowered, it kind of takes away the awe and wonder of it. So what do you guys think if we're diving a little bit deeper this time? What are things you would consider when we talk about like magical costs when you're using magic in a setting?
Well, talking about my magical wood shop that can't hurt me, what would a reasonable cost be there? It's like, oh, that tool doesn't turn on today because it would have cut your finger. Okay. Now let me try this other tool. Well, no, that one's not going to work either because, well, you were going to drop that on your toe, and so you can't pick up that hammer. So you have these interesting things where it's like the old stories of genies and wishes. Bad things happen when you wish for something because you weren't specific enough.
Mm-hmm. And I was thinking about the breakdown between practical magic, where it's sort of utilitarian and everybody can use it and it's systematized, versus the kind that is more nebulous and you have to work out the details every time, and it's a little bit amorphous. And so I was thinking, based on that the cost might also reflect what kind of magic it is. So it's like sort of like what John was saying, where you have, your systematized magic has systematized costs, and everybody knows what those costs are, as opposed to, well, I put together this shamble from 2 pieces of string and an earthworm, and if it doesn't work, then the earthworm's going to bite my ear, or the string might try to strangle me, or something like that, and you never really know. So I kind of like the idea of it breaking down in that way, that if you don't know exactly what you're doing in terms of having a set of rules or a set of standards, then anything could be the cost. And maybe that's part of the hazard of doing magic, is you don't know if you stick your finger into the abyss, if the abyss is going to bite it off.
So kind of a predictability issue. You might not know how it's going to go badly for you, or exactly what the cost is.
Right. You know that something will. You know that there's some price to pay if you fail, or if you call on magic that is, the more powerful the magic, the greater the cost. But it's not something predictable.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then that contrasts with things like, Dungeons and Dragons, where it's all very predictable and laid out and that kind of thing. But that they do have the cantrip level where you can pretty much do that as often as you want.
And no cost.
At very little cost. I mean, if you're technically following the book to the letter, then it has funny things like a pinch of dust or whatever.
Well,
so
unless you're a sorcerer.
Unless
you're a sorcerer, and then you can, sorcerers can abjure that. But yes, the point is,
where you can do whatever you want. But then the stronger the magic is, the fewer you can cast in a day, because it takes, your energy to do it. And then you have to recharge, because that's the other thing with a lot of systems, is that you have to sleep, or with divine systems, you have to meditate, you have to have a discussion with your God about what you need for the day. And so those can be built in to say, here's that structure, and that lower level magic you can use till the cows come home, but it does very, very low level magic stuff.
Well, the funny thing there is that cost, quite often playing games, we just ignore those things, because the cost to be effective has to be entertaining in some way for either the reader or the player. And so there's that element of it too, where you don't want to have some cost that is boring. And so that plays into it quite a bit as well.
Now, I've played around with the magic systems I've used so far have been very nebulous. Like there's kind of limitations in my head, though. Exactly how well that comes across, it probably depends on your personal opinion. But a big part of it is understanding what you want the magic to do or how it works. One system I've used is very elementally based: air, water, earth, fire. And you can do anything, you just have to be able to think about it in the right way to make it happen. And if you can't understand how that would work, like fixing a broken bone, if you're earth, you can use earth magic. That's pretty easy. That's a solid thing that's easy to fix. Someone who has more ability with air, you're going to have to really think sideways to figure out how to make that work. So if you don't understand it, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes to systems like Vampire and Mage and World of Darkness, where you had the spheres, and the answer when you were talking to a mage as to how you do that was, I don't know, you tell me, given the spheres that you know, at the levels that you know them, how do you do that? And then the response was, does reality notice what you're doing, in which case it may smack you in the head. Go ahead, Melissa.
I don't remember what I was saying now. I don't know that I had I don't think I had a thought. It happens sometimes. Oh, I was thinking
most of the day.
I was thinking about, speaking of costs of magic and balancing, one of the series I wrote had magic that had been split in half by a magical disaster. So you had two worlds, and in one world, it was very regimented, very orderly. It was all written, and you had to practice your penmanship for years, because if you didn't get it just right, the magic wouldn't activate. And in the other world, it was shaping the magic according to your will, and your body was tied to it. And the actual conflict was when the two worlds came back together and the magic didn't combine, and they had to figure out, what do we have in common that makes this the real magic, that makes it the real thing? Because if we can't figure that out, then the worlds are going to separate again, and this time it's going to destroy both of them. So I kind of like the idea of combining the two on some level, and Dungeons and Dragons kind of does that in a way, just because you have kind of divine magic, which is more, prayers, and you get your magic through your god, and then who knows how it's manifested. And then you have wizardly magic, which has components and rituals and spells, incantations, has different components. And so I kind of like the idea of a system where you have both, and it could work in a couple of different ways. I think you could have it where you have competing magics, where you have one group, and this is kind of Terry Pratchett with the wizards and the witches, although the wizards do their magic a little less rich. Well, it's still ritual, but it's not like, usually not a 10 cc's of mouse blood unless you're summoning death. But the witches have one way of doing it, the wizards have another way of doing it. But I think you could do something interesting with where the two of them had to work together, where you had to be paired. Maybe you couldn't do magic unless you had a practitioner of one kind and a practitioner of the other working together. That's just offhand something that I was thinking of. So.
Well, that could be
And I don't know
interesting.
what that says about the cost of magic, except that one cost is social. Having to work together would be part of the price. You are maybe the greatest mage in the world, but unless you have your mage partner, you can't do anything.
hmm
I was just
Well,
reading a book that went into that whole elemental thing with the air, earth, fire, and water, like Terry was mentioning. And it goes into the concept of, okay, you can be an expert at one, you're going to have a weakness in another, and it takes more than one to get the powerful magic. You combine some of this and some of that and some of this other thing, and you get the much stronger kinds of magic from that combination. But there's always that danger of you do it wrong and you explode and everyone around you dies. So you have a cost in there. That's more of that fuzzy cost of, did I do it right or did I just destroy a city?
Right.
and now all I can think is about Captain Planet. I had kids that were the right age for it, and so it's the yes. And if you go through and you put all those together, then what do you get? You get Captain Planet. And then that was a magic system. For all that it was a kids show, it was that idea of.
And I'm
this is
hearing
how
the theme song in my head now. Thank you, Jana.
I hope it sticks with you all day. But like Melissa was saying, the other social cost is, how often do we read books or other properties where magic is forbidden? And so being a magic user, even if the actual doing the magic comes easily to you or doesn't have a really strict cost to it, you do have that cost of, well, if anybody finds out, then bad things happen to you, with that whole list of bad things being from, being outcast or being captured, so that your magic can be used for things that may or may not be friendly to you, being killed. There can be a lot of those kinds of social costs, even if the magic itself is something that might be innate or might not have a huge cost or a huge structured cost. It can still have a huge social cost.
That was actually on my list of ideas. I called it the invisible cost, because obviously, like, we talk about the blood exhaustion, use of blood or whatever. But, in a world where maybe magic does make you a pariah, the social cost would be the isolation, right? Like, if you're a very social person and nobody wants to talk to you because you're the witch, or, insert word for magic user, does that make it harder for you to use your powers?
Well, also, the flip side of that is that you suddenly have a very tight social community of all the other outcast magic users. That you have to be able to depend on these people because they are all in the same boat you are. That you are subject to death or imprisonment or shunning or whatever, but you can count on, Granny Beetle down the road who understands and shares that that magic with you. So I think it's interesting because it makes it a matter of how you feel about your magic. A person who can practice openly is going to be comfortable and welcoming of magic in a way that someone who has to do it secretly might not be. And what if you had someone who was a magical person, had magic inherent to them, and resented it because it made them outcast? I mean, there's another story for you.
The other part of
is
that,
somebody who doesn't want to use their magic because it's brought them nothing but grief.
The other part of that is if you're having to do it in secret, chances are you're doing it around your already busy life. So are you going to get as good if you're only doing it late at night when you're already exhausted?
Yeah.
Well, there's another aspect of that as well. What happens if you get your power through isolation, being away from people? If you get near too many people, it doesn't work, which is why there's no magic in the big city, for instance. So you have those sorts of things, but maybe there's something that you have to go to the city for. And so you can have this whole social cost involved in it, even though it isn't directly tied to the use of the magic.
Well,
That-
the other
that-
one is, go ahead, Carrie.
I say, and that would be its own cost, because if you can't use your magic when you're in the city, then that's an inherent risk to go there at all, even if you need to.
That gives them a prime opportunity. There's a witch burner.
I'm not a witch.
Yeah, and that is a big thing, is how the non-magical folks react to it, because in some places it's just not that big of a deal. Yay, there's a magic person, and can't we all have magic? That'd be nice. But then you get severe prejudice. I'm thinking Kate Daniels. They have a group called the Lighthouse Keepers that shows up off and on through the entire series, and their whole thing is to take magic away from everybody, because they feel like at one point you were able to get by on your merits, and if you worked hard and everything else, and you got these things, and then you have these people who have magic and they get to skip all of those social requirements because magic just suddenly makes them better at certain things. And so they spend most of the books trying to come up with ways to destroy the magic and make it so nobody can be magical, because they're jealous and because they feel like other people can get ahead of them. And so magic can be a gift where people think it's very awesome, and then the other side where it's a case of, again, it's a witch, burn her.
Which leads to a potential trauma response to magic, thinking something along the lines of, assuming like magic was real, how would someone feel about using it around the times of the Salem witch trials or the Inquisition in Europe? Like, does that affect your relationship with magic and the price of using it, when the price, aside from like whatever the magic requires, the social cost of using it is potential death, and not just a peaceful death, like, tortured in very not pleasant ways that we won't talk about, because you might have kids listening with you.
Yeah. And we don't want to anyway, because they were grody.
Yeah, they were kind of, we're going to prove how goodly we are by torturing you to show how bad you are. Like, that logic doesn't track for me. But no, I'm just thinking, and our view culturally in the West is also colored by the fact that is in our shared history.
Yeah, and part of that is kind of a dark bit of history, because with all of the witch burning, it turns out there really weren't any witches. There were just a bunch of jealous neighbors.
Or ergot poisoning is the other often used example. So ergot is the root for LSD, which you get from old fungi or mold, I can't remember. That with which goes on wheat. So if your bread crop is bad, well, you'll be tripping balls. One of the things that I haven't seen outside of the horror genre is the sanity cost or the emotional cost. So like every time you use your magic, it takes a little bit of you away. Something dark fantasy, I guess, like the Witcher could be another example. So you cast a spell, but you lose the memory that's fundamental to you. At what point in time are you not you anymore? When you use your magic, so you get your perfect reality bending cup of coffee, because we're the Blasters, but it had to be coffee. But the price is you permanently forget the name of your first pet or something along those lines.
I think Neverending Story 2 did that.
Really?
Yeah, that was a whole thing. Every time what was his name? Sebastian? I think it was Sebastian.
Bastion.
Made a wish. He lost a memory until towards the very end. He's like, another character's like, your father would have been proud of you. Who? It's like, oh crap.
Mhm. Yeah, and Wings of Fire does that with their. They have very specific dragons that have bigger powers than absolutely everybody else, and I can't remember. It's like an anime just kind of thing, but and I'm gonna get that wrong, and my daughter's going to correct me later. But anyway, their big power. It's their belief is that every time that you cast another spell, it pulls on your soul. And so, how do you protect your soul and still do all of these cool things? Or are you destined to become evil because the more magic you use, the more you start to look at it as the solution for your problems because it's so easy.
Oh,
It's
let's
such an
just use
easy way to
somebody
say,
else's soul to do this one.
yeah, and that's actually that's a plot point where he uses a spell to hook it to somebody else, and so he continually needs more of these magical dragons that he can suck away their souls instead of his own. And so there's a big, dark cost there.
So I like it. The most common cost that we see people using is obviously the physical toll. So like channeling magic drains your power, your physical. So your favorite diet, Dr. Pepper, loaded with caffeine, but the act of conjuring it makes you so tired you actually probably needed the caffeine just to not pass out. I think that you see that a lot in video gaming with like the concept of mana that runs out. And I think that comes from probably the video gaming more than anything. I don't know if the concept of running out of magic existed before that. I'm not a scholar on the history of fantasy tropes.
No, it has.
has.
That's a very, very common thing to have, that you only have so much that you can use, and once you're out, you're kind of stuffed until the next day or until you've had a rest or until you go to a ley line and you recharge. I mean, there's a whole lot of that idea of magical batteries that you
Now,
have a certain amount and that you have to do something else with it.
Sometimes that cost is you run out of magic, it can literally kill you, and other ones is, well, you just pass out and you take a long nap.
I think it shows up more in video games because that's a really easy thing to track. And it's something that is easy for the player to be able to see, oh yeah, I've only got this much mana left, so I better conserve it. Or, oh, I need to drink a mana potion because it's low. I think that's just a really easy game mechanic, but it's certainly something that fantasy has been dealing with for a long time.
Yeah, unless you're lit RPG, like you say. The little health and mana bars only show up in games.
Right. Well,
so the other one that you see a lot of, and maybe it's just because the type of literature I read, but the concept of like the equivalent exchange. So like the conservation of mass, essentially stealing from physics. So like you get something of equivalent value has to be lost because you're not creating matter out of nothing.
Yeah, so I can't remember who it was. I may have mentioned it last time, but a magic system that had to obey Maxwell's equations.
Yeah. So like if you want the perfect hot cup of coffee, that means, the heat had to come from somewhere. So it's stole it from the environment and suddenly, the room is colder or something along those lines. One that I haven't seen played with as much as the environmental cost of magic. So I've actually written under one of the many pen names, the idea where like you can open dimensional rifts. And so to kill the monsters, he just, opened a dimensional rift from a volcano and lava poured out, but didn't apply because the story wasn't set there. But I do wonder if something like that, if you're using that as magic, what does that do to the place you're stealing that power from, right? Like
I think it comes out as being something that evil people do often. And maybe that's just because there's a bit in War Master where the evil characters are doing that, where working their magic actually sucks the life out of the earth so it's completely dead. Not just in a general sense, but in a literal nothing will ever grow here again sense. It's got no life.
So would it be permanent or just
I think that negative effects, when you're talking about the villains doing things, the more permanent, the more evil they are. So, you could have somebody who casts Touch of Madness on someone and it lasts for 10 minutes, but, maybe the evil thing is that it lasts forever until they find a way to deal with it. until the heroes do. So I think some of this, I mean, we haven't really talked about cost of magic in terms of doing evil rather than good, but I think a lot of it comes down to, what can I do that is the worst possible thing I can imagine? And one of those worst possible things is destroying the earth, because we all got to live here. And it's, just one of those things that I think is instinctively bad. Somebody sucks the life out of the earth. Somebody destroys a pond, especially, or a lake, a river, a stream that's feeding a village or whatever.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting idea, that the bad guys understand the cost and don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's their goal to destroy things because
or
somebody did
go ahead.
something they didn't like.
Yeah, or they're, like Jana was saying, they're putting the cost on other people. Or they're, paying the environmental cost because it doesn't matter to them. They don't care about this.
Or they can rationalize it away, that we're going to borrow this for a little bit, and then we're going to come back later and we're going to be able to fix it, when the answer is it may not be fixable, or fixable may take years and years and years and years for magic to drip back into the system.
Which makes it a complicated question if the people who are doing that think that they're the good guys and really do intend to come back, but they don't. And then they have to pay the price, not just of having done something destructive, but having done something destructive that is against their moral code, and having taken it too casually.
It hurts a lot.
There's
of other
another
people.
cost.
Yeah.
I've been playing with that concept in the longer work I've been plotting away on. And there's an environmentalist bad guy, essentially. And he discovers something worse that was done by other evil people. And it's like, oh, I need to fix this. And he's trying to do that just because he cares about the environment, not the people. To heck with the people. But when he finally does figure it out, that he dies because he's a bad guy. And so it's another 50 years before that whole thing's fixed. So it's a concept I've been playing with a bit.
Well, there's this whole dystopian kind of thing. What caused the dystopia? Was it somebody who did something they weren't supposed to and foisted the cost off onto everybody else? And so that's a great setup for an entire world to be in that situation.
Okay. One of the things that with magic is the concept of unearned magic. And the example I would think of when I was writing my notes was like a magic item that allows you to do the thing if you're not a magic user. Now, I realize it's not entirely unearned because whoever made the magic item paid the price in the making. But how do you feel like when the player gets a magic item and the player doesn't have to earn the magical power, or the character doesn't have to earn the magical item they're using? Do you think that takes away from the story? Do you think it matters?
I think it depends on how you do it.
That was pretty close to right in sync.
Wow, that was amazing, you two.
Well, our powers combined.
Yes, but yeah, I mean, if you've got, I mean, that's an interesting story idea, isn't it? Because you've got a magic item and it was created by somebody and maybe they sacrificed to do it and there was a cost to them. But every magic item in general is one that is deferring the cost of the magic because the item is paying it. And so maybe it's an item that has charges. Maybe it's an item that disintegrates after you've used it for a couple of hours. Maybe it's something else that you do have to tap into. And so you're now fueling the item. Your personal mana is fueling the item. I think that sets up a lot of different story ideas. And, what we're looking at overall, I think, is how does this work in stories, and how is it interesting in stories? So if you've got a magic item that lets the character do anything they want, that's kind of boring because they just get what they want. There's no challenge. There's, forget about cost. It's that there's no challenge. So, so the fact that they have the magic item and it doesn't seem to have a cost would be an interesting story, especially when they find out they've been paying the cost all along and it was something they didn't want to give up.
Or maybe the cost is everybody else wants that same thing too, and they will take you
Right.
for it and they will kill you for it.
Yeah.
So the
Well, and
other,
often we get those items because they purchase them. So there is an honest to goodness, this is how many gold you pay in order to get the thing that makes your icebox go. Because we don't have modern technology. And so you have to buy that, and you have to buy it once a week. You have to buy the magic coil that goes into your icebox. And then you take it back to the coil shop. They take it, they re-imbue it with energy, and they sell it again. So there can be an easy, depending on the world you're in, the transaction cost may just be a literal part of the way that the economy works. And in a lot of stories, people fight and die for items, or they find them. So I'm thinking Sting, that they have to deal with the trolls, and there's all this trouble they go through, and then they find the hoard, and then Sting becomes important through the rest of the Hobbit and well into Lord of the Rings, and the cost there was the cost of adventure. And we see that in D&D all the time. You kill off the other party and you loot their stuff because
Yep.
somebody got it somewhere else and now it's mine. So there are costs there, but sometimes it's the cost of the quest.
Yeah.
I went down to 5 hit points to get this, dang it.
Exactly. I nearly died and the crown is mine.
Nearly? Yeah. I died 3 times getting that.
See?
That too.
so speaking of dying 3 times, one of the things I haven't seen as much played with is the concept of the Faustian bargain, where like you give away maybe more than you even intended to in order to get the magic. The perversion of the genie's wish, which is a trope, that you started seeing in D&D, where no matter what you wish for, they're going to give you literally what you asked for, but in the worst possible way, kind of thing.
Right.
And I'm sure that didn't come from D&D. Like I'm sure that concept is the trickster genie.
From the monkey's paw.
Yeah. But the idea where like using the magic costs you. And so it's one of those things where like, does the good I'm about to do with this magic in this instance, is it worth, whatever I'm giving up? I read one story where they were talking to ghosts to help them reconnect, to go to the afterlife. But in order to get trained for that, for every minute he's in this alternate plane training, he's losing, minutes of his life. So in order to help the people to do the greater good, he's also shortening his own life. And sometimes you make those bargains not realizing that's what you're giving up in the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, how about this? You've got the death character like Terry Pratchett has. What happens if you have a physical character who is responsible for karma?
Go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if that's the case, somebody makes one of these deals, well, yeah, karma is going to come in and enforce things.
Yeah, I've seen it in urban fantasy. Urban fantasy plays a lot with those kinds of things, with making death and karma and other such things into, real people, or, people who end up with that job. Sometimes the whole thing is it's a job, and that's something that gets passed around.
Right.
But yeah, it becomes an interesting thing. That's a question of when is the magic the thing that's in charge? Because if you're given the job of karma and now you have to go and do that thing, it's now it's the magic driving you. And that's an interesting cost too, when you have to answer to the magic. And it makes me remember Smendrick the magician from The Last Unicorn, where all the best of his power is all done when he goes, magic, do as you will. I am a vessel. I am a conduit. You are an idiot. I may have watched the show way too many times, but that idea that the best magic he does is just when he opens his up to it and then sees what happens. And in that case, who's in charge there, the magic or the magician?
Your karma just ran over my dogma.
That just made me think, if you are the anthropomorphic personification of karma or fate or death or whatever, and all the magic is part of that job, then it's really not you. It's really not your magic anymore. And I think that would be different than someone who was doing those things because they had the power and so they took on the responsibility. I think that would make an interesting story is, what kind of person is it who gets chosen to be karma? And, what do they do when it's no longer their life, when the magic is what's driving them? I think that would be an interesting story.
Yeah, so the cost is they must enforce their job.
Right.
Whether they want to or not, it must be enforced. Maybe there are clever ways that they can work around with it. You know how Death has his little games that he plays to give people a little extra time, things like that. You've got a little bit of flexi room in there.
Yeah. And maybe that reminds me of Mort in the Discworld series, where Death's apprentice has the power to go out and collect souls, and chooses not to because he has a crush on one of the people he's supposed to reap, and all sorts of bad things happen as a result. But that's, I guess, similar. Is you have this power and you have to do what it says, and if you don't, then bad stuff happens, and you don't have that kind of control. You don't have that kind of choice.
So consequences for not using magic. That's a different kind of a take on the whole idea.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting concept. I've never seen one where that was. One of the concepts that this is the cost of magic that's not really directly tied to the concept, but more tied to the fiction that comes out around it, but the inflation problem, because you want there to be a cost, but you need the series to progress where it feels more each time, so it doesn't get boring. So how do you keep the cost feeling relevant around the power creep that inevitably happens without getting characters that are ridiculously OP to the Warhammer level? Like the balance of the cost versus the inflation to keep the audience engaged with the idea.
Yeah, from the writer side of that, looking at that, I think you really have to be planning ahead, because the times that I've seen in stories that I've read, where the characters become overpowered and the challenges are greater and all this stuff, and there's always the awareness in certain of these that the author did not know that it was going to get this far. That they didn't have a plan for what was going to happen when their characters reached, and I'm looking at you, Robert Jordan, the end of the, okay, I made it to book 8 and I loved the Wheel of Time. Okay, don't come at me. But you get to book 7 and all of a sudden people are doing stuff and there's new characters, and Nynaeve is not the most powerful anymore and all this other stuff is going on, and it was like this escalation that just kept happening, and it no longer makes sense. So I think, from the writer's perspective, it really helps if you know where you're going and you have a plan for when they get to that point.
Yeah, I think
because if not, you're stuck.
Yeah, one really good example of that progression fantasy idea where things keep increasing over and over and over. The Cradle series does that really well, I think, where, you have these phenomenal world-shaking powers when you started it out hidden away in a little tiny valley, barely able to do anything, and you end up changing venue into areas that require more power to succeed. And so part of that is everything progresses with the character who is gaining that power and strength.
Yeah, that's a really great example.
And sometimes you take a lateral leap or you take a backwards leap, because that can be interesting storytelling too, is if somebody has gained a great deal of power through some mechanism, say they're a paladin, and so they've had their god and they've become very, very powerful, and then they have a crisis of faith and they're no longer, they don't have that belief, and it can screw up their power. And so you end up having books where you have to work through that, what happens when that ability that you used to call on and that kind of thing doesn't work for you anymore because something has changed. Or you get the lateral leap where they go from, well, I've been studying one thing and I'm going to branch out and study something else. Or the Harry Dresden when he takes on the Winter Mantle. Sometimes we get some lateral leaps where we kind of move around in the same general power level, but we explore different aspects of it so that you're not continually going up and up and up. Because at a certain point, you do get the Buffy problem of who do you fight after you've killed a literal god? And then you have a season of walking about going, we don't know what's to do with this.
Life is big bad.
And then you fight the first, because that's the only thing they could think of that was bigger than a god, because it is that power scaling problem.
You just legit gave me an idea, Jenna.
It's really difficult to
good.
take away the power and reset things back down to a lower level, and to do that successfully.
Mm-hmm. I
From
agree.
both the character perspective, viewing that as their world, and both the creator or dungeon master side of things as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the way around. If you have something that is too powerful and you need to take some of that power away, getting that to look believable takes a lot of work.
And I can use myself as an example. So obviously, I don't have magic. Well, maybe not obviously.
You don't? Wait,
But, like,
what?
one of the ways they explain getting a mild to moderate TBI, which is basically any TBI where you don't have foreign object debris penetration through the cranial cavity, is you go to bed normal and you wake up suddenly with like really severe ADHD or ADD. And so what makes it the worst, according to the neurologists, they'll tell you, is because you can't do certain things that you used to do, but you used to be able to do them, and how frustrating that is. And I imagine if, you're a paladin who suddenly realizes maybe I was following the bad god and this was not the right path. And so I lose my power, but now I want to do good things, but I can't, call down the lightning because I'm not a paladin anymore. I'm just a dude with a sword, or whatever that step back would look like. That has to be frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
Having tasted that power and then losing it.
Yeah. That makes
But
for
I
a
think
really
it's-
interesting story.
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say, is that can be an interesting story to go, how do you rebuild it, or how do you re-earn, since we're talking about costs? Sometimes if you paid out too much, if you burned out your magic or that kind of thing, what happens when a wizard does have to go back to starting with cantrips all over again because they've done something that burned their magic out? And so they've tasted just how powerful it can be. And now we're back to Flickumbicus trying to just get us to light something basic. And that there's fascinating storytelling there, because you see that all the time with people where we can become very powerful and where we can learn a lot and we can be experts in our fields, and then things happen. And then sometimes it can be a traumatic event happens, and now you've got to relearn everything. Sometimes it can be by choice. Sometimes it's old age. Because a lot of times we talk about magic users that they just get more powerful as they get older, but that could go interesting too, to say, as you get older, what happens to your ability to channel the magic if it's pulling on your physical well-being? And now you're 96 and you don't have as much physical well-being as you used to have.
So here's something we talked about when it comes to, I'm backstrapping a little bit, Jana, but with the paladin, you talked about someone who had a crisis of faith. And I keep thinking, well, what does a crisis of faith look like when you're literally seeing gods in your universe? How do you suddenly go, I'm an atheist, right? But here's an angle I've never seen anyone cover. What if you're a paladin and you're happy with the gods you serve and you're doing all these righteous things, and then for whatever reason, someone kills your god?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're not a
Oh,
paladin.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, what is the name of the series? It's sitting right over there and I can't remember. Anyway, there's all right, you guys talk. Now I have to go and look, because otherwise
go find out what it is. In the latest season of Critical Role, one of the characters is the paladin, or actually I can't remember what she is, but she serves a dead god, and they're still, she remains faithful to whatever is left.
Does the power as a paladin come from your faith in the god or the actual god itself?
That depends on the story. And in that case, I think it is the faith that drives them, and
So
not the god.
you can make a twig your tree and it'll give you magic because you believe it's a god?
I think there have to be restrictions on what kinds, what level of creature it is. But again, that comes down to the story. And I could imagine, in fact, I think there are, in Dungeons and Dragons, there are options for being a faith-based character whose faith is not in a particular god, is in nature or some principle.
Well, I've also read stories where the power of a god depends on how many people worship them.
I was actually going to say that. What happens if the god is out of favor and now your god isn't as strong because you have less worshipers? What happens to the paladins of that god then? Are they weaker?
Small Gods. That's Small Gods by Terry Pratchett. Comes down to the last one remaining believer in a faith full of people who claim they believe and don't. Mm-hmm. And there's one left. And if he's gone, then that god disappears. So read the Discworld books, JR.
They're really
I'm
good.
just gonna repeat myself until you do. So,
So
read
one I
War
was-
Master first.
Yes, was The Fallen Blades by Kelly McCulloch. And
Oh,
these are very, very good. And it is that idea of his deity dies and he sees him destroyed and he's like, now what? What am I if the thing that I believed in and dedicated my whole life to and everything else is gone? And
Mhm.
it's a fascinating series and finding out that, maybe that can be brought back and all this, that, and the other. But it's a real crisis of faith to go, well, do I still go around being a good person if I don't have was that belief the reason I did the things that I do, or does it more internal, or so there's a lot of interesting questions with that where it becomes a what are you going to do? And I wrote Paladins of a Death God, and again his following became very, very popular when the dead are actually rising and coming around to kill people.
Mhm.
But it does. How much faith you have and how many followers do you have, it all makes a big difference because the other gods died.
And actually, skipping back to Melissa's point about the 4th campaign of Critical Role, there are 2 paladins in there, and I don't think
they're
they've
both
figured
paladins.
out where the other one's power comes from yet. I think he's
I
only
don't-
1 level in paladin, though. I think.
Yeah, he has not said, and in fact, I don't remember him saying what god he serves. But isn't he related to the light religion? That
don't
isn't really a
think
religion.
so.
Sorry, spoilers.
I don't think he is, but
I honestly
heard
do
him
not
referred to as the
remember.
godless, because he would
Yeah.
have gotten his powers long after the gods were gone.
Right. Hmm.
So I think
So
that's
he gets
still,
his powers from something else. Yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, they're doing something interesting with paladins, and I am there for it. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I know we are butting up against a deadline where Melissa will turn into a cat or cat food, and her cat will eat her. We're not totally clear on all of that.
Something like that.
We don't want her to become cat food or a cat because I've got more books I need to read. Instead, we're going to bring this party to a close, and I'm going to ask you, Terry, and obviously I think there's enough room for the Cost of Magic Part 3. We'll discuss that maybe in August. We'll book something, dear listener. Give us all time to ruminate and you time to join the discussion and ask questions that we can respond to. But with that said, Terry, what are you reading right now?
Ooh, I am currently reading Emily Wilde's Map of the Outlands, the Other Lands. I forget the author off the top of my head, but it is the 2nd book in a series. Emily Wilde. It's awesome. It's one of the few times I have wiggled in delight reading a book in a long time.
Okay. All right. What about you, John?
I just recently finished Academy of Outcasts.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a fun little fantasy that's very elemental based.
It's not Larry Correa.
It's Larry
Yeah.
Correa.
Uh-huh.
Okay. What about you, Melissa?
I am reading with my daughters A Parade of Horribles, which is Dungeon Crawler Carl 8 by Matt Dinneman. And we are listening to the audiobook by the amazing Jeff Hayes, who is so good with male and female voices. My kids thought there were 2 narrators for like the first 3 books.
Wow.
So if you're going to read Dungeon Crawler Carl, go get the audiobooks. They are fantastic.
Yeah, I'm halfway through book 1, but I haven't picked it back up because it's a hard copy.
Oh.
Don't have as much time for those.
Yeah.
What about you, Gianna? What are you reading?
I am reading Ghost of a Chance by Dan Willis. That is his 2nd book in the Arcane Case Files, which has a really, really strong, fun magic system because they have alchemists and sorcerers and spell slingers where everything is based on writing out runes and that kind of thing, and then you have to burn them, and that's what makes the magic go. And it is a fascinating system and good read. 1930s noir urban fantasy.
I've read 1 book in that series. It is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
he
take
even
credit-
has he has glyphs for fixing the runs in your stockings and getting the oil stains out of your blouses. So
Ooh.
there you go.
I
Go ahead,
take
Melissa.
credit for introducing Jana's husband to that series.
Yes, and he's very grateful most of the time, except for when he reads the book that makes him cry.
Aw.
which I haven't reached yet, so I don't
Mhm.
understand his pain yet, but it's coming.
You'll get there.
And I am reading, by the time this goes live, at least, I will be on War Master 6 and Spacers 3.
All right.
That's another war we've got to add to now. You've got hamsters and masters and now mistresses and masters and now hammers.
And hammers.
Oh, there's
So-
parts
yeah.
that we're just not going to touch tonight.
Hammermaster.
Yeah, we're going to skip that because that could go non-family friendly answers. And I'm just snarky enough to let something slip before I mean to. So
Yeah, don't do that.
this is where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right book. So do your part, people. It really does make a difference. And with that, Jenna, if we wanted to stalk you on the wild, wild interwebs, where might we do so?
Well, as I've said before, I am the loser at Internet Hide and Go Seek. So you can find me under these 2 pen names and a couple others, to be honest. Anywhere on the internet, if it has to do with publishing, it is me almost all the time. If you want a more direct link, you can go to my Linktree, linktr.ee/Opal Kingdom Press, and that'll give you all sorts of links to all sorts of things, including my Etsy store, because JR insisted that I add that there, and you can, go see my random octopi and jellyfish and whatever else it is that I'm crocheting on while we're on live.
All right, Terry, what about you? Where might we stalk you on the wild, wild interwebs?
Oh, I can sometimes be seen flitting between cats on Facebook, but also my website, terrykjob.com.
All right, John.
On Facebook, if you look up John's writing stuff, that will get you there. I've also got a blog, and so that would be johnmolson.blogspot.com. And so you can do things like sign up for my newsletter and stuff there.
All right, Melissa, where might we follow you on the wild, wild interwebs?
Well, my website is melissamcshanewrites.com, which has a link to sign up for my newsletter. That's published monthly. You can get stories from my experiences in India and announcements of new releases and sales and things. My storefront is nightharborpress.com, where you can get signed books, ebooks, and audiobooks just as soon as I finish uploading them. And you can also go to Amazon and click to follow me as an author. They are very good about sending out new release information. So I recommend that.
Okay. And you can follow us, dear listener, on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things: BitChute, the Rumble, the YouTube, the TikToks, the Twitters. We've got our Spotify, our Discord, our Substack, our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. You can email us at blastersandblazespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandblazespodcast@gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people. Save the shenanigans from Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, the Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. These episodes aren't free to produce, and every penny helps. So we appreciate when you help keep the lights on. If you do decide to support the show, be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast, and I will keep them duly caffeinated, I promise. Only they'll get to pick their caffeine of choice, so I'm sure Dr. Pepper will be involved with at least a third of the official coasting staff, or a quarter, actually. So with that, I would like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters Blaze Podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time. We will indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And with that, we're going to hit the end button. Wait for it. And